My name is Frank Barca. I'm from Australia. I'm 44 years old. It was awesome. I was a very energetic kid. I was always outside. I was always involved in martial arts, tennis, music, drums, soccer. I was always, if I wasn't doing that, I was out in the backyard, hitting balls and running around and riding bikes and skateboards, and I was a typical child in the 70s, I got raised on boxing by my father, and we used to have wrestling going on all the time, like WWE and local Australian-based wrestling. My dad loved wrestling, still does to this day. So for me, punching and scrapping and mucking around my brother, throwing punches was natural. And I always believed that there was secrets that people knew about how to really hurt another person under self-defense circumstances, under the right circumstances. And early, I liked the good guy. Like Kung Fu, he's walking around, everyone's giving him a hard time and he just kicks the crap out of him. I love that idea. Bruce Lee, massive fan of Bruce Lee through the 70s. He goes into a town, minds his own business, and there's also a bunch of dudes that want to, rough him up or give him a hard time. Like, I could really relate to that. And I like that idea of a guy that was minding his business and then having these great, crazy-ass skills to just wipe everybody out. I love that idea. I thought all martial arts did kicking, punching, wrestling. When I saw Enter the Dragon and I saw that first submission that Bruce Lee pulled off at the end of that fight, that armbar, I just couldn't, I was mesmerized. I'm thinking, man, the grappling. And then of course we ran and get that tail of Jeet Kune Do as soon as we could, and flipping through all those diagrams and going, oh, look, what's a, and then asking my instructor, what's this? Oh, and every excuse under the sun, or we don't do that, or just worry about your kata or something like that, or go hit pads or go into a tournament or something, But as I woke up, I realized, judo was a certain way to fight. Japanese jiu-jitsu was a certain way to fight. You could strangle a dude, you could punch him into submission, you could knock him out, I got real interested real fast, but back then not a lot of people had the answer. I went down to the local high school and that's where I found freestyle karate back in 1979.
How old were you then?
I was 9 years old. Look, it was competition for me from the first day, because being a small guy, there were no kids' classes, we hardly wore pads, and there were big dudes. There were like guys in their mid-20s just digging in front kicks and bopping us on the nose, and it was normal for me. So I got over that really fast. But I noticed that in my first initial group of 42 that joined, I remember clearly in 79, there were 42 beginners. And out of those 42, there's nobody left. By the time I was a green belt, which is like 2 years or 3 years, I was the original one left. And then it was a big turnover because a lot of people didn't like that. But I got raised heavy-handed, Southern Italian. My dad was always, whacking me in the back of the head. My grandfather was always pinching me, and, and my uncles would throw me on the ground trying to dack me, So for me, it was like a big deal, They weren't really trying to wreck me because they could do that. I knew very early that this guy could just kill me, but they were trying to teach me something. As long as I wasn't getting savaged, like hurt bad, it was all good, But I never took any breaks. From 9 to right today, I'm 44, man. I've been training 35 years. Wow. I'm not joking. I'm a lifelong dedicated martial artist, and I could talk for a year on just how that's affected me as a human being. It's unbelievable. First black belt I got was at 14. It was in freestyle karate. It was like American kickboxing with katas and just classic freestyle karate in Australia, in the Bob Jones Corporation, or back then it was called Zendokai. And I was very competitive, so I became really good, and I was at black belt. I was undefeated actually for 18 months in my age group and my belt category. So it was very competitive. So people wanted to start learning what I was doing, even at a young age. And my first time I started teaching was when I was in 10th grade, and I was 15, and I had 12 of my high school buddies in the driveway, and I was teaching them some of the moves that I know. We turned into a dojo. We hanging bag, speed bag. We'd spar. So I started handing information down very early, and I opened my first legitimate school at 16, and I was making something like $500-600 a month as a 16-year-old cash in a legitimate business. Like, I had to sign a lease, pay the rent, outgoings, get my equipment, run classes on time. Like, it was unbelievable. I was very lucky. They actually didn't think it would survive, but it actually survived. And then I took over the original dojo, and to this day in my school, I'm remnants, what's left of the Hadfield dojo back in 79 when I started. It was handed over to me. So I've been teaching since I was 16, and I went right through Muay Thai, right through there, my teenage years. And then Muay Thai, heavy Muay Thai from then on, and then went through to, I really wanted to investigate throws, locks, pins, takedowns, weapons as well, because I got raised, I love the classical side of things too, so I spent 3 or 4 years in Aikido as well. I got my black belt in Aikido as well, but it was a very hard style of Aikido. Iwamaru was very hard style, so it wasn't very flowery and elaborate, it was very direct, it was very powerful. Then of course, KU, which is Kuruchinati, which is a classical Okinawan martial art. 13 years I've been with Sensei Patrick McCarthy, And I'm still a student of his. You know, I'm focusing more these days, of course, on jiu-jitsu, of course, on 10th plan jiu-jitsu for the last, 8.5, almost 9 years with Eddie. Now, but I'm 140%, 10th plan jiu-jitsu, no doubt about it. But man, I've been a lifelong martial artist. So for me to pick up my leg and swing it, or spin back kick, or light him up with some hands, or go in there and clinch, for me, it's martial arts. It's not a sport to me at all. I haven't dedicated myself to a sport. I've dedicated myself to an art. I found it easy to find the taps within the tapping for me to keep me going and keep me feeling confident, because I learned very quickly the importance of being courageous, but also building your confidence. Not just being courageous and getting smashed, because that's just like, oh dude, maybe you should do something else. It's having the courage to come back and then go, okay, where did I make that error? Have the courage to see where you're exposed and to be brave enough to fix it, and go there, like with the leg locks. Put yourself there. It's scary, but put yourself there, and then your confidence builds, and now you're calm. That composure, it's composure too. Over time you get composure. You become like an expert at what you do. You become a martial artist. You got to learn, you got to master it. You got to get to at least a black belt level. Then you can go, all right, I think I understand what this is all about here. This is what I think. Look, it could be a million other things, but right now, the difference between practicing martial arts and being a martial artist, I think, is just time and experience and courage and willing to have your weaknesses exposed and then diving straight into those exposed weaknesses and turning them into strengths. Almost be untappable. That untappability that, Jean-Jacques talks about to Eddie and Eddie talks about to us, very important. There was always something why I never made it into the ring on a big show. But man, I tell you, I've always fought in the ring, trained hard in the ring. My teacher would bring his mate would have his school with the Turks and the Greeks, and we would get together on a Saturday in South Melbourne, underground gym, like under a church or something, and all the old diggers would be in there. Paul Fifield, Sam Greco, they'd be in there, just Stan Longinides. They would get in there, and my coach would match me against guys. There was no weight divisions, mate. There was blood on the walls, on the floor. It was, so I had hundreds of those days. You know what I mean? But I never committed. But for us, it was automatic to test yourself. So for me, it still feels the same as to anybody when you get that feeling that, okay, here it's on. But walking forward, the next step was always forwards. And listen, I've been on the planet 44 years, 44 and a half years. There's a lot of conditioning in there from your parents, from your instructors. They really didn't know what was going on. Come on, seriously? It was hard, man. Like, I remember walking in as a 14-year-old boy and my instructor having a bad day. Put these on. Oh yeah, put the headgear on. And for 40 minutes before class, he would just tee off on me. I'm serious. Tee off on me. Like, beat the crap out of me. And looking back now, it helped me, but geez, it hurt. Like, I reckon I got mental problems. Sometimes when I hear Eddie talking about and Joey talking about in UFC about head trauma and later on in life, listen, who doesn't have anger issues when you're especially a small person, and people shoving and pushing you around? You're in sports, you've won and you've lost more. Martial arts, getting your ass beat down all the time. Absolutely. But one thing that I've realized is that using that as fuel and turn it into a positive, man, that silver lining saved my ass every single time. And I'm a huge advocate of that, finding the positive out of bad situations. Dude, I've been coming here to Eddie's for 8.5 years. This is my 12th trip in the 8 years. The first 3 years, I got hurt bad. 2 bulging discs in 2006. Tore both knee fibula heads 2007. Both of them 2008 in the wrestling class, Connor's wrestling class, having a real bad day. Fell off. Boom, thrown on my head, separated my shoulder with a week to go. Boom, I'm like crying in agony, for days. After that, it took me 9 months to recover. Like, man, it hasn't been an easy thing. Dude, there's not anger there. You kidding me? There is. But as you get a little bit older, you get more proficient, the confidence grows, you realize that that's a lesson. All the shit that happens, it's like trying to tell you something. It's trying to point you in a direction, and you got to make the next choice. But when you're young, you don't have the maturity, you don't have that foresight, you don't have someone to tell you that. People are still angry. They're not teaching you anything. But through constant persistence, man, there's a lot to say about perseverance in my book. And overcoming adversity, anger, and not losing your shit when you want to lose it. I mean, that's so hard. When you lose your temper, it's lost, right? Holding it, it's still hard. It's not hard? It's not hard for you? Come on, you want to wreck somebody, but you're like, so absolutely. But yes, as a boy, man, anger issues and that conditioning, hey, there's still remnants of that in me. There's still, and look, it's in everybody. I don't care what anybody says. If you're in your 40s, there's still that conditioning from your parents. It's always gonna be in there, and then you need to recognize it and then just squash that like a little baby dragon. Don't let that thing grow and start flying over your house, burning your whole suburb down. That's when things get all messed up and people get hurt and so on. So I've got a 13-year-old daughter, Caprice, and a 14-and-a-half-year-old boy named Andre. And I'm really blessed. They're terrific kids, and we've raised them in a martial arts home, on a martial arts mat, and martial arts dojo, surrounded by martial artists, world-class martial artists as well. I have a saying that, not my saying, but I learned that it takes a village to raise a child, you know. I used to think I had to do it all myself, and that's where a lot of that stress and anxiety in parenting came in. When I realized it's okay to let my kid sit with that guy because I trust that guy, just let him learn that lesson. Let him learn. And when I just let him everything improved a lot more. Like, my relationship with them was better. I was a better father. My relationship with my wife was way better. My wife Karina, she's an incredible mum. She's a martial artist too. She's a 2-time black belt as well in different arts. So it can be epic in our house sometimes, you know, when things go a little bit hazy. But as a father, look, I tried as best I can, and early on it was tough, like any father goes through it. Early days, you're trying to learn. There's no CD that comes out with a child, you know. But man, that martial arts helped me feel more comfortable with the people around me, to let them be with them, so I could just take the pressure off having to teach them everything. And once I made that distinction, everything improved enormously for me.
What kind of changes have martial arts brought to other people that you've taught?
Courage, man. Confidence. Self-esteem. People throw this around like it's cliche, right? But I'm telling you, look, I'm a small person. I'm like 62 kilos. That's about 136. I'm probably less than that now. I'm training and whatnot. But to see a skinny, small kid get a bigger kid in a triangle, and the kid goes purple trying to get out and has to tap, you want to see that little kid walk across the mat? Hey, listen, I've seen my son get beat down. I saw him go to get his first kill in competition, his first tap in competition in mounted triangle at Grappling Industries in March. Got his first submission, took silver in his first legitimate comp in the under 16s division. You should have seen how high his head was held. You know, my daughter, scrappy little, shredded little 13-year-old girl, going after 16-year-old boys, you know, and really putting on them, putting them in arm bars, or not finishing, but just being dominating, and those kids trying to get them and going full tilt to try and get my daughter, and she's like hurt because they've tried so hard, and I'm like, listen, you'll heal. And when you come back, look, self-esteem, thicker skin, perseverance, toleration, don't tolerate learning through adversity. Easy is not an option. Perseverance, come back again and again and again. Put your chin up. Look at you. You're a soldier. Look at you. This is a hostile environment. I teach them about this the first day, even if they're 8 or 10. Listen, this is where we practice when things go wrong. Get your head in the game, because if you start focusing on what you're doing, when it's hostile, you focus. Hostile equals focus, and I think that comes through in their personality and raise their self-esteem, their belief in themselves. That is huge. These things it changes people's lives. It's changed mine, and I'm an example. No one can talk shit on me. I was a 9-year-old kid. I was a 13-year-old boy. I was a 16-year-old boy. I was an adolescent. I was an 18-year-old kid. I was a 21-year-old young man. I was a 25-year-old middle-aged married person. I was a 29-year-old father. What do you want to, what? I'm talking shit? Dude, I'm an example of what can happen. I don't say that in an ego way, because no one's more grateful and appreciation than me. Maybe Eddie. He's taught me a lot and how to appreciate. And I'm trying to teach them to appreciate even the crap, because without it, how do you know the difference between that and all the goodness? And they're beat down and tired. You know the story. They walk out and jiu-jitsu starts working there in the car on the drive home, and the parents are going, "Wow, what a change from when I drove him there, and then when I'm driving here." Like John Jacques always talks about, jiu-jitsu starts when you finish, right? When you drag your sorry ass off the mat. And the same for kids, man. The biggest change is their self-belief. And that's a whole accumulation of things, very important. And responsibility and obligation too.